Good evening, everyone. Sir, with your due permission, should I start?
Yes, yes, please proceed.
Yeah. Good evening, one and all present over here, respected seniors and my dear colleagues. On behalf of Durg Bhilai Academy of Pediatrics, I, Dr. Seema Jain, Secretary, Durg Bhilai Academy of Pediatrics, welcome all the dignitaries at this digital platform. In the series of events on Breastfeeding Week, yesterday we had a panel discussion on breastfeeding during COVID period, myths and realities. Today we are having talk by the National Faculty, Dr. Rupal Dalal ma'am, on effective feeding skills for optimal weight gain. On 4th, we are again having an activity, quiz competition on infant nutrition and breastfeeding. Apart from this, we are having poster competition, skits, videos for nursing students. It seems our full week we have devoted this time for breastfeeding events. Before going further, it is my proud privilege to welcome our chief guest for this function, Dr. Amar Singh Thakur sir. He is MD Pediatrics, having done his MPH from Denmark. He is Chhattisgarh State Senior Official Deputy Director of Child Health. He is in charge of immunization, Rashtriya Kishore Swasthya Karyakram, RKSK for adolescents 10 to 19 years of age. He is in charge of Rashtriya Bal Swasthya Karyakram for children 0 to 18 years of age. He is also in charge of NIPI, that is National Iron Plus Initiative for all age group for adolescents to women in the reproductive age group. Please welcome him by your claps. I welcome sir. Next, I would like to welcome Chhattisgarh State President, Dr. Harish Naik sir, a very well-known personality in this zone. Dr. Harish Naik sir is President, Chhattisgarh Academy of Pediatrics 2020. He is Director, Child Care Clinic and Nursing Home, Korba, Chhattisgarh. He had been past President of Chhattisgarh Academy of Pediatrics at Korba branch and past President IMA Korba. He had been organizing chairman for Chhattisgarh Pedicon 2005 and for 2012. With this, I again welcome him with Next in order, I would like to welcome Dr. Umesh Khurana sir, who is MD from Jabalpur, winner of Dr. J.N. Pohawala Gold Medal, and he is a life member of IAP NNF Adolescent Health and BPNI. He is fellow in neonatology at Westmead Hospital, Sydney, Australia. He had been CGA President 2017 and is presently head of the Department Pediatric Chandulal Chandrakar Memorial Hospital, Medical College, Bhilai. I welcome you, sir.
Thank you.
I hope Dr. Satyen Gyani sir is there. Sir, he is there.
You can introduce him.
I welcome Dr. Satyen Gyani sir, who is the central representative of our state. He is a fellow of National Board in pediatric intensive care. He is director of Pulse Hospital, Bhilai, Chhattisgarh. I would like to welcome Dr. Raghavendra sir, who is our Chhattisgarh Academy of Pediatrics secretary since last 3 years and is a secretary still. He is consultant, Ekta Institute of Child Health, and he is a DNB teaching faculty at Ekta Hospital. He had been past president of Raipur Academy of Pediatrics. I welcome you, sir. Now, I would like to introduce our President, Durg Bhilai Academy of Pediatrics, Dr. N.S. Thakur, sir. He is MD from Gwalior and he is the Senior Deputy Director, General Hospital Research Center, Bhilai. He is our present President, Durg Bhilai Academy of Pediatrics. I welcome you all, sir. I welcome all the participants who are here and all the members who are in this meeting. Now, I would request Dr. Umesh Khurana, sir, to introduce our today's speaker, Dr. Rupal Dalal, ma'am, with the kind words. Now, I am handing over to Dr. Umesh Khurana, sir. Sir, please carry on.
Yes. Thank you very much, Dr. Seema Jain, for nice introductions. Well, this webinar is being organized in collaboration with BPNI, that is Breastfeeding Promotion Network of India. Dr. Arun Gupta has been very kind in seeing to it that this national webinar is conducted successfully. And we have Yashika from BPNI who is offering her support. Dr. Amar Singh Thakur very well knows that last year BPNI had organized training program for national trainers at Raipur of 2 weeks duration. So 6 national trainers have been trained from Chhattisgarh. I am one of them, and there are 5 additional nurses who have been trained as national trainers. Now BPNI is offering several types of, despite organization of World Breastfeeding Week for last 28 years, BPNI organizes several programs, training of counselors, lactation counselors, 7 days duration, 2 weeks duration program of the national trainers. Then they are coming now with a new program of baby-friendly hospital accreditations. So with the help of BPNI, we are organizing this because we know that as per IMS Act, we cannot take any sponsorship from any company. Today's speaker is Dr. Rupal Dalal. Now, it is my proud privilege to introduce Dr. Rupal Dalal to all the participants. Dr. Rupal Dalal received her basic medical graduate education from the famous BYL Nair Hospital, Mumbai, which is currently providing unique human milk banking services for Mumbai. She did her residency from Cook County Children's Hospital, Chicago, USA, where she received award for promoting literacy amongst underprivileged children. Since January 2013, she was engaged in working for children 0 to 3 years in urban slums of Mumbai as well as rural Maharashtra. She initiated the functioning of special clinic for malnourished children in Wadia Hospital, Mumbai. Well, friends, you all know that Chhattisgarh as a state has a very high incidence prevalence of malnutrition, and hence her messages will be of great help to us. Currently, she is adjunct associate professor, Department of Sitara, IIT Mumbai, and is consultant for spoken tutorials nutrition project of IIT Mumbai. These animated spoken tutorials on nutrition have been translated into 22 languages of India and are helping millions to transform their nutrition practices. Dr. Rupal Dalal has actual field experience with Anganwadi and Asha workers in several districts of Maharashtra, Gujarat, Rajasthan, and shortly she will be offering her services in our neighboring states of Jharkhand, Madhya Pradesh, and hopefully in Chhattisgarh also. The most important feature of her services is that she has done anthropometric growth monitoring in standard WHO growth charts. Ladies and gentlemen, introducing Dr. Rupal Dalal to you all. Madam, please.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Umesh. Thank you for this invitation. This was pending for a long time, so finally I got a chance. I'm going to start my presentation. I really would like to thank the whole panel of IIP Central as well as the Durg local, and looking forward to this interaction. Just wanted to kind of present my experiences and also data, because unless you have evidence, nobody's going to believe what I'm going to say. So let me just go ahead and share my screen. Okay, so today what I'm going to talk about is basically effective breastfeeding skills for optimum weight gain. So I will focus more on optimum weight gain, because breastfeeding skills can be taught or can be learned from our spoken tutorial videos. So of course I'll go through it quickly, but I want to really focus as pediatrician. I think we are not really we are not well versed with what is optimum weight gain. So I want to start by saying that life and thriving is about growth, right? And the question for us is, do we start small or do we start large? Do we end up small or do we end up large? All the problems, all of the good things along the way ultimately leave a mark on our bodies and our mind. So this is very, very crucial for our little brains, our babies. It's very important that they continue to grow. At any point, if there are any issues, it will have a lifelong mark on that child, not only physically, but even on baby's mind and baby's brain. What is optimum? I think this is really, really crucial for us to understand. And optimum is basically what all the countries in the world, what we are following is WHO growth charts. Okay, we all know how it came about. Basically these are all the children which were taken from 6 different countries on 6 different continents. And when there were 3 things which were given to those children. So your health, all children were breastfed, all of them had vaccination, and all of them had good sanitation. By and large, all of them grew at the same rate. So we have this notion in pediatrics, it's genetics and genetics. Yes, genetics come in, but probably after 5 years. First 5 years is basically a nutrition. Of course, nutrition during pregnancy matters a lot, right? But let's start with pediatric, because of course, once a baby is born, that's when we come in the picture. So here, this is a girl child. This is weight for age girl child percentile growth chart. Okay, so if you look at your middle line, which is your green one, this is your 50th percentile. That means your average girl child should be on this green. They should follow this green line. At least 50% of girls. Then about 15% children are below, or 15% children are above, right? And then 3% children are basically, on this line, on the last line or the below, or 3% of children are above the last line, right? So that's where your 97th and 3rd percentile come. Now this is for a boy child, again pretty much the same thing. Now I want to again kind of take you kind of minutely that if you look at the 50th percentile at birth, okay, for a girl child, so you will see that basically the average weight of a girl child, no matter where it is, whether a child is born in India or whether a child is born in America or anywhere in the world, the average birth weight for a girl child, I would request everybody to mute their mic, please. Host, can we please mute everybody's mic?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, I'm doing that. Yes.
Yeah. You can mute everybody's video also, so that we don't have a bandwidth problem. Okay. Okay. All right. So if you look at the 50th percentile, so the birth weight is about 3.2. Okay. So if your baby is not born 3.2 kg, your girl child, that means right there, basically child is underweight. Okay. So if the child is born 2.8, so child is already on 15th percentile. That means we have to work really hard to bring those babies up. And of course, how we can start as pediatrician, please talk to your gynecologist friend or obstetrician friends and ask them to talk more about nutrition, especially homemade cooked protein rich food, good fat rich food, lot more nutrient density, because we do kind of focus so much on carbohydrate, too much of rice, too much of that starch in our diet, and that will not help with weight gain in the baby. So this is really important that we bring the birth weight of babies to 3.2. It has to match with WHO standard, right? It has to be there. All right. Now, if you look at this child, this girl, suppose born 3.2, if you look at 1 month of age, right? So you can see it over here, the 50th percentile basically matches your 4.2 kg, right? So your 4.2 at 1 month of age, child has to have a 4.2 kg to be on an average centile growth, right? So that's from your 3.2 to 4.2, so almost a kg, almost a kg, right? Then you look at 2-month-old baby, that child will have a 5.2 weight, so again 1 kg extra weight, right? So basically every month child is gaining 1 kg, as now you will see that how child will slow down. So from 2 months to 3 months, basically child is gaining about 5.8 kg, right? About 5.8. So now you're seeing that slowly child is slowing down. Okay, now what we saw in a program, if the child came to us under 3 months of age, under 2 months of age, those children we could really kind of worked on the latch part or the breastfeeding part, and they started again catching up on their growth. But if children came after 3 months of age, those children we had very difficult time to bring them up, to have a good catch up growth. So it's important that we start very early on. I would recommend to basically start teaching mothers on breastfeeding even before pregnancy, so they already know what to do. Same thing for boys. Again, if you look at it, boys' birth weight should be 3.3 kg. This is your average birth weight of world children. Okay, so why should we lag behind? Why should we say that 2.7 is okay? It's not okay. Okay, so it's very important for us to understand. And again, male child also has little bit higher growth than girl child, but again, first 3 months is pretty much lot of weight gain for both girl child and a boy child. Now this is again taken from WHO tabulation. So if you look at it, we were told that first 1 week child lose weight, and then it takes some time, so they gain. So in some centers they say 10 days, some centers say 2 weeks it may take, but literally if you look at your WHO growth chart, by 1 week child, this is for a male child, WHO male child. So in first week basically they gain about 200 grams. Okay, so this is important. So we have to make sure that if you don't want your children to have a growth faltering, it's important to follow these numbers. Okay, because this is where they will kind of those children will track really well, or a lot of time they will do catch up growth also. Okay, so second week 42.8 gram per day. Now what we are taught, okay, we are taught maybe 20 to 30 grams a day, right? And pediatrics we say okay, 30 grams good, but if you target 30 grams a day, your child will start faltering. Okay, so again this is really important. Look at this weight gain per week, pretty significant weight gain, and if you look at it at first 12 weeks, that's it, child has probably not even first 12, first 7 weeks. So in 7 weeks basically child is pretty much gaining 42 grams pretty much every day. So it's important to follow up your growth charts, and plot it, because then you will realize when they are plateauing. Now this is the I would say certificate of India. Okay, this is our certificate. This is what is showing that how we are doing as far as our children are going, right? So look at the 0 to, this is NFHS4 data. Okay, children under 5 nutrition status. If you look at 0 to 2, And this is blue line is your stunting. Stunting means basically your length for age is lesser than your standard deviation. Less than -2 standard deviation. But if you look at, because in pediatrics we are not taught standard deviation chart. Okay, believe me, even I was not taught in pediatric medicine in US or in India. uh, we used percentile chart always, right? So if you look at a percentile chart, basically all these children are less than third percentile, pretty much less than third percentile. That's where your Z score starts. Okay, so do you know how many children should be below third percentile normally as per WHO growth chart? Only 3%, right? Only 3%. That means your third percentile. But look at in India, look at these numbers, right? Are we proud of it? Look at this. This is your SAM man. So this is your acute malnutrition. Your 34% children from 0 to 2 months of age, they are under third percentile, right? Your yellow color chart, I mean your yellow one is underweight, 24% 0 to 2 months. Where are we? What is happening? Why are these children from 0 to 2 months are not catching up? In fact, they are going down. And as you see, if children are not basically catching up, and then eventually your stunting starts showing up, because stunting is chronic, right? It takes time for height to basically falter. The first thing which falters is your weight, right? So if the weight is faltering, and then obviously basically child is not growing well, child does not have enough nutrition, and then eventually by 1 year of age you start seeing stunting. So at between 1 to 2 years of age, look at the stunting level. Only 3% should be around this stunted, or maybe less than third percentile normally. Look at the number, 43%, pretty much almost half of your children are basically your stunted. And once you are stunted, that means your IQ is gone. Its cognition is the problem, right? And if the girl child is stunted, then a child has a repercussion when she grows up. Child will have difficult labor, child will have low birth weight, and a lot of other issues. That girl will have a poor IQ, they'll have anemia. So I really kind of really request all the pediatrician to look at this chart, and it's a rude awakening for all of us, right? And if you look at the acute malnutrition, we all know now, because there is a lot of hoo-ha about SAM ma'am, but our children should not become SAM. Look at this, 34% children, the highest number of children who are SAM ma'am are basically under 2 months of age. So we really need to work hard on our breastfeeding skills. Okay, now if you look at, now again, this is NFHS4 data. It's a difference, it has shown NFHS3 as well as NFHS4 data. So if you look at it, the exclusive breastfeeding rate is definitely, it's not that good, but still kind of better than NFHS3. So, but look at this, at 2 months of age, less than 2 months of age, 72% mothers were exclusively breastfeeding. And then as child grows up, that exclusive breastfeeding goes down. Have you ever asked why? Do we know why? Is it mothers, or is it us? I think it is us, because we are probably not doing a good job of helping her, or kind of letting her know how the breastfeeding should be. It's probably lack of knowledge. Okay, and these are all again numbers that I spoke about. These are all under 5. So 38% children under 5 are stunted, 38% under 5 stunted, 35 underweight, 21% your SAM ma'am, so acute malnutrition, high risk of dying because of single infection. Only 9.6% children get minimum adequate diet. So of course breastfeeding is there for next 6-7 days, but we want to make sure that we don't stop at breastfeeding. Also promote proper minimum adequate diet to the children, that we will probably talk about it sometime later. But this is really important, because this is a shame again for India, that only your 10% children are eating minimum adequate diet. Okay, now how about exclusive breastfeeding? Only 55%. Okay, so again we need to increase. Now we always think that no, it's poor children who are malnourished, I don't think so. I think it's basically, if you look at this data again from NFHS4, your 22% children, richest children, are malnourished. So almost 22%, that's 1 in every 5 child is malnourished in the highest quintile. So let's talk about the middle class. Middle class almost 30%, and basically lowest is of course the highest. In fact, middle class is even more, I would say. Yeah, around 30-35%. And the second lowest is almost 40%. So, of course, malnutrition is high in lowest quintile, but, even the richest children are not spared. Why every mother needs help? Why that rich mother needs help too? I mean, have you ever, we always think, oh, no, it's tribal, nutrition is there in tribal areas, but it's there over here in elite class also. Okay, so here I want to kind of show you this particular study. This was done in UC Davis Hospital. Okay, now in United States, we have lactation consultant basically, and all the nurses are trained. Okay, when the child is born, mother has access to lactation consultant, and these are by and large IBCLC, because if you don't have IBCLC degree, you will not be able to practice your lactation, or you can't do lactation counseling. So all these mothers had lactation consultant at the time of birth. Okay, so this was a sample of 532 mothers, first time mothers in UC Davis Hospital. What they found, basically 92% of the new mom had at least one breastfeeding concern. Now, when you have access to lactation consultant, then why so many mothers are having problems, right? If you have a breastfeeding concern, that means definitely there is some issue. Now, let's see what are the issues that mothers were facing. So 52% mothers said that babies were not feeding well at breast. Okay. Then 44% mothers, they said there was a breastfeeding pain. And there was 40% mothers, they felt that they were not getting enough sufficient milk, right? So here again, look at these numbers. There are pretty much, pretty high numbers of, a lot of breastfeeding issues, right? And pretty much about all of them gave up by day 7. They because of all these problems, they stopped giving mother's milk. So again, why mother's milk? I don't want to go too much in detail because we already know it's all theory. So this is again, a lot of this, some of these numbers are from India. Okay, some of these numbers from international studies, but basically, it helps. I mean, it saves lives. What else I can say, right? Problem with lack, there is a lack of technical skills, which I noticed when I started working in rural or slum areas. Actually started with slum areas. What had happened that when I came back from US, I started working and I had done my pediatric emergency. I was basically working in pediatric emergency medicine in US and California. And when I came back, I wanted to work in a hospital. That was my thing, that okay, I'll work in a poor hospital and help poor children as a physician, as a pediatrician. But when I went to Wadia Hospital, which everybody knows Wadia Hospital, and Dr. Ambedkar was my mentor, so I was working under him, not working but observing. When I started observership in 2006, 2007, early 7, I saw that all these babies who were there in this big, huge ward, some 70, 80 babies, which was again difficult for me to watch because we had, in US, we had one individual room for every child, right? So over here, when I saw that ward, all these babies were small. Some were older children. They were very thin. A lot of them had diarrhea, pneumonia, malaria, dengue, a lot of these infectious diseases, and a lot of them were, the mortality rate was pretty high. I was really surprised. There were not proper machines over there. There was no pulse oximeter. So as a pediatrician coming from US, when I did not see single pulse ox in the whole hospital, I got a panicky attack. Because pulse ox is the least thing that you can have it in the hospital. And I felt, and when I saw these children, a lot of them were getting discharged, but they were getting back into the hospital within a week or two with this second bout of diarrhea, or probably the second pneumonia. You know what I mean? So what I felt that I cannot do emergency medicine, or I cannot do critical medicine, because I felt that I needed to work for poor children, but I did not have access to those machines. So then maybe what I can do is to help these poor children to become healthy. Okay. So that's when I asked, Dr. Ambedkar, and he kind of said he was a trustee of one of this foundation, and they were looking for a pediatrician to work in slums to basically bring up their nutrition level up. And that's how I started my journey with Dr. Ambedkar. Okay. So I go to this one particular slum area. There was a completely two open room. One room had some preschool going on, but they asked me to start a program on health and nutrition. Here I was coming from US with all up to date everything, and there was not a single even a weighing scale, right? So we started with a weighing, like a Salter weighing scale, coming from again digital weighing scale of 001 or 1 gram increment. Here Salter, I could not even make out what was what was a number. So again, slowly we build up. But what I'm saying is that we learned a lot. I really learned a lot. Because we had zero training on breastfeeding, we had zero training on complementary feeding, we had zero training on maternal nutrition. Of course, I knew all my vaccinations, I knew each and every drug I would give for all these diseases, but this basics that unfortunately we were not taught. So over a period of time, what I started doing is that I started learning from a lot of these guidelines, right? So it's okay, this is how you hold the baby, this is how you do, this is what you do. But then I started realizing that this were the problems that we were facing in the field. So when I started kind of understanding proper breastfeeding techniques, what I saw that almost all the mothers who came to our program, they were nipple latching, all of them. Okay. Even when they were areola, like, WHO has this guideline, right? So the lower areola, there should be asymmetrical latch, the lower areola should be in the mouth, upper areola should be seen, all that. But when I was looking at mothers, mothers were basically holding the baby in cradle hold, but in the cradle hold, most of the time there's the upper areola going in the mouth. Okay. Then when baby was again in the cradle hold, what was happening is the baby's neck was getting flexed. So again, that was an issue for me, because like I started kind of trying on myself that if I have a flexed neck, means if I put my neck down, okay, looking down, I would not be able to swallow easily. So if you guys just try it yourself, just put your neck down and try to swallow. That's why whenever we have any drink, when we drink, say from a bottle, we always kind of extend our neck and then drink. It's much easier. Okay. So now you just, if you're working in the field, just look at the mother, look at the baby. You will see, oh my God, this baby's neck is flexed. How is baby going to swallow any milk, right? Fourth thing, what I noticed that because the way baby was coming on the breast, that nipple was facing in the middle of the mouth. Actually, when you look at it, it has to face upward, towards the palate, right? It has to go much deeper. It has to point upward. So that's what I noticed. Second thing, what I noticed is that the full body support was missing. Most of the mothers were not supporting the baby. Again, this is part of your positioning, that the full body support as per WHO. Then the body was twisted. So what was happening? It's like, when we're eating something and the food is not in front of us, food is on the side. So it's like, we have to bend our neck and eat it. Again, we won't be able to swallow pretty good. So again, most of these babies had a twisted neck. So the neck was facing the breast, but the body was facing up, in the sky. Okay, so that was again, that's the issue that I found. Then mothers were unaware of early hunger cues. Means every time baby cried, mothers gave milk. Every time baby cries. So again, a lot of these small things, unfortunately we had this Salesforce, EMR. We call it EMR because I had come from US. So it was difficult for me to write down everything. So, fortunately FMCH, we could basically kind of get this, customized electronic medical record, medical or healthcare, you can say whatever, but we would record each and every point that we would say, and we would basically monitor these children on WHO, automatic, everything automatic. It was on cloud, right? So every time we said something, we realized whether that whatever counseling we did was working or not. Okay, so that was very important for us. Most of them were feeding very infrequently, so they were not getting 10 to 12 times that whatever that we recommend. They were getting maybe 6 times or 7 times, so the frequency was very poor. Okay, and in some case even the latch was good, baby was too far. So long time, I saw that okay, latch was okay, reasonably okay, but mouth was good, lips were outside, but the baby was so kind of far that poor baby was like sucking so hard that baby was dimpling. So that a lot of this thing that we noticed in our program. Okay, so here, so this is a very beautiful kind of video Where baby's nipple latching, nothing comes. Do you see? Now, if baby's areola latching, look at the amount of milk. Okay, again, one more time, extremely important video, because this is the issue in India, where I saw pretty much 99% of the mothers coming to me nipple latching. Okay, and no wonder our babies are not gaining weight. Okay. Okay, now another thing which was very important for me when I was observing why all these babies were not gaining weight is like, the way mothers were holding the breast when the baby was coming on them were basically normally when we eat, our fingers are always parallel to lips. Okay, so do you think about it that you're eating a big burger, you're having some big chunky food, okay, I would call it burger, right? So if you're having a burger, you're always going to have your lips parallel, your fingers would be parallel to your lips, right? And you're going to press it hard and you're going to take a big bite, okay? That's how it's going to go. So this is how normally we eat, and the fingers are always parallel to the lips, right? So here, these are the lips, and this is how basically you have a big bite. So normally what happens in cradle hold and cross cradle hold, babies are coming horizontally, right? So then your lips, baby's lips are vertical. So the fingers of the mother should be vertical too, right? I did not notice this. What I noticed that babies were coming horizontally, the lips were vertical, but mothers were holding it horizontally. So it's like holding this is your baby's, say mother is holding vertically. Now this is baby's coming horizontally, like right straight, and the lips are vertical, right? So if the lips are vertical, look at the doctor, what doctor is doing is basically like, it's like a burger, she's contouring the breast so that becomes easier for baby to have a big latch. Okay, see how, so this is exactly very correctly she has done, where basically the lips are parallel to baby mother's hands or doctor's hands. Very important. But what we are taught, or what most of the mothers do, they hold the breast in a C-shape hold. Okay, here, see, this is another one very beautiful video where the nipple is retracted. Okay, here, see how doctor is basically keeping the finger parallel to baby's lips. Extremely important. See how he's contouring, or she's contouring the. Here, there you go. The nipple was retracted. Still beautiful latch. Okay. This is not what I saw. If you look at, again, all the mothers, what they do, they basically hold a C shape. Okay, and that is one of the biggest problem, I think, and that's why babies are nipple latching. Because when you're holding your burger in a vertical way, you will not be able to have a big bite. Okay. All right. So this is what I'm saying is more like what I saw on the field is mothers were having perpendicular, the fingers were perpendicular to baby's lips. Here, this is what I see all the time. Okay, look at this. Now baby is horizontal here, so lips are vertical. So the finger should be here near the nose, and the other finger should be near the lower lip, right? Here, what is happening? The diagonally, it is becoming longer. You see over here, right? So how do you expect WHO criteria of lower areola going in the mouth? You just cannot have the lower areola in the mouth if you're flattening the nipple. If you're flattening the areola, it's very difficult. And this is how it happens all the time. If you look at a lot of these brochures which are kind of circulated in government, they have pretty much all of them have the same problem. See, baby's vertical, horizontal, lips are vertical, but mother is holding C shape. Do you see this over here? Same thing. Here, the finger should have been over here, right? To make the contouring of the breast pretty significant, so it becomes easier for the baby to put in the mouth. So okay, so this is all. One more thing which is very this thing which I saw in the field, that most of the mothers, 99% of the mothers had no clue how to express milk. Okay, because a lot of time what happens, they try to see whether she's getting milk or not, but if she's not pressing it correctly, she will not get a single drop, and then she'll feel that, oh my god, I'm not getting any milk, I don't have enough, that perception that I'm not having enough milk. Okay, so here again, this is another one which is circulated in Maharashtra. So here it says, use both the hand to bring milk forward and below areola. If mother bends forward, gravity. This is wrong. This is absolutely wrong. And this is in our government. Okay, the correct technique of manual expression is 3-step: press, compress, release. It's, you press the breast against the chest inside, then you compress it and then release it. This is how it is. Okay, so if you have a wrong information going to all your ashas and Anganwadi workers, you will not see this is wrong. Okay. Okay, now when I looked at all these different issues, okay, then we had to come up with some kind of new technique, because cradle hold was really not working in my program. I was a total failure. It was not working. Okay, so then I had to figure out, okay, what other hold that I can try and improvise on that, so that we would see better results. Okay, so this is how basically cradle hold is when you hold the baby from the opposite side. I'm not going to go too much in detail again, because this is given in our tutorial, so you can look at it, and again, this are taught very beautifully. We have taught that how the baby's kind of neck should be held, or the lower part of the head should be held. How mother should kind of keep her position, keep her body. She has to relax. These are again WHO criteria. So keep the baby straight, full body support, right? Nose to nipple is another criteria in your positioning of the baby. So another thing what I noticed in experience, that most of the time this nose was here. The nose was here. The baby was too high up. Okay, so when the baby is too high up, then what was happening is the upper areola was going in the mouth. The reason WHO recommends the lower part of areola, because you remember when we eat something, we always put something on the lower jaw, and we always have this really good bite when we never put anything on the upper jaw. It's always on the lower jaw, and then with that force, basically you bite that food. And it's similarly children, it's important to have a lower areola in the mouth, because with the jaw they will create this pressure, and then basically all the ducts which are present in the areola, they will be able to kind of have a very good milk transfer. So this part is extremely important. This is another issue that if you look at it, most of the mothers, especially cradle hold is a problem, because in cradle hold what happens is baby is coming like this, so automatically the nose goes up. Okay, so that's why we thought cross cradle will work better, and we started seeing much better results with that. And here we have shown that how mother should hold the breast. So again, we have been, I think I would say we have become an engineer actually, of breastfeeding. We have shown exactly where to keep the fingers. So we have shown that this is like a clock, 3 o'clock, 9 o'clock, put your tips at 3 o'clock and 9 o'clock. Tip should not be up, or tip should not be lower down, because then otherwise the contouring will not be, contouring won't be there. Okay, and then we have also shown that how far it should be, because sometimes we notice some mothers were kind of pressing the breast in the U-shape hold, but it was so far that the areola was not becoming smaller, or sometimes they were putting the fingers so close to the nipple that your only nipple was going in the mouth. So then we basically tried to figure out that how far the mother should put their fingers. So basically we came to conclusion it was 3 fingers. And then we started saying 3 fingers, again we started seeing good results. So again, this is very important. Monitoring is very important. Okay. Again, this is we are showing that fingers should be parallel to lips. Now again, so a lot of time mothers want to breastfeed in different hold. I don't mind at all, but first 2 months let baby learn, because baby does not have a proper neck support. Okay, so it's important that you support the neck and the head, and then that the latch is much better. Yeah, and suppose mother wants to breastfeed in a lying down position. So what mother can do is she has to look at baby's lips, and then accordingly she has to put her fingers. Okay, so that this is important, that the finger should be parallel to lips. Okay. Okay, now latching part, this is another very important part, where you can see that a lot of time mothers have this issue that baby's not opening the mouth, but when you bring the child to the breast, if the neck is extended, remember I told you that the neck has to be extended, so you tell mother to bring the chin forward, so the chin should come forward, bring the chin forward, and then extend the neck. And then when you stimulate the upper lip with the nipple, automatically baby will have a big mouth, and we call it 2-point latch. So there is a it's a very beautiful way of latching the baby, where you latch first the lower lip and then the upper lip. Okay, so this is 2-point latch, first lower lip and the upper lip. Another thing which is very important is the lower lip should be at the border of areola. It should not be kind of close to the nipple. It should be literally at the border, and the areola is very small. You bring the lip even on the breast, and the upper lip should be just sitting on the nipple. Okay, so this is my hallmark. If you can get that latch, your baby is definitely going to be doing really, really well as far as milk transfer goes. Okay, so this is a good good graphic where the lower lip is shown over here at the border. Now when you have a good latch, then obviously as a doctor, as a nurse, you want to look at it, that how the latch is. So a lot of time when the baby is too close, you won't be able to look at the latch properly, because both the lips are kind of embedded into the breast. So what I recommend is to always look at, kind of press the breast over here a little bit and look at the size of the mouth. I prefer the size of the mouth should be 120 degree. If you have 110, 120 degree, then that latch is just perfect, and make sure that the lower lip is sitting at the breast. So those are the couple of things that I look at. Your lips obviously will be out, for no doubt, and the chin should not be just touching, but it should be embedded into the breast. So this is important. It has to be really, and once you look at the latch and if everything is okay, then again you push the baby in, chin forward. So make sure that you bring the chin inside, and the nose and the forehead should be out. Okay, so in this position, again, baby has very good swallowing. So this is again good latch, bad latch. This is, I'm very thankful to IIT Bombay Professor Kannan, because his team has done all these beautiful videos, and we have gone so much in detail that mothers, once they watch it, they'll know exactly where the problem is. Okay, now this is some of the other important points that we thought it's mother has to know. It's like, a lot of times she feeds only on one side, or if she feeds on one side, she'll just feed for 5 minutes and then she'll go on the other side. So here we have shown that that the behind part or the back part of the breast has a lot of thick milk. So just go ahead and continue feeding that breast. As soon as you see that only a few drops are coming out, then you can stop it. Okay, but I recommend that not to just give both side little bit. Completely one side breast should be empty, and then kind of go on the other side. Okay, and the way we do it, we tell mothers not to, it's not subjective. She has to do objective test. So what she has to do, she has to press it. So we show her how to press it, press, compress, release. And then if she sees a lot of thick milk coming out, only watery milk coming out, that means she has to put the baby back on the breast. Okay, on the same breast. But if it's only a few drops are coming out, then she has to basically burp the baby. Of course, she has to burp the baby anyway, and then she can go on the other side. But she has to always offer the second side, because if she doesn't offer the second side, a lot of time what happens, she feels, oh, baby has taken lots of milk, and baby sometimes sleeps. So then she does not make an attempt to even feed on the other side. Again, what we saw in the program, the most of the babies pretty much took both sides, so it's important. Another thing in India, generally, mothers, they put their babies on the shoulder to burp. Now in US, we always, even in the NIC of 500 grammars, we make them sit and then basically burp, because what we found that, when they're kind of, when they're sitting, they burp within a minute. It's so beautiful. Like as soon as you make them sit, right away the burp comes out, and not when we tell them that the latch is good, they may not swallow a lot of air. So we tell them that try 2-3 minutes, and baby's not burping, that means the baby doesn't have air in it. Okay, but you teach them, we have shown how to burp the baby in our tutorial. These are all the early hunger cues. So, okay, somebody's mic is on. Can we mute that mic, please?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. It's done. Now you can continue.
Okay. So this are again, early hunger cues. How many times to feed? 8 to 12 times in 24 hours. Nighttime is important because prolactin is high. And again, last point is really, really important. Is that we tell mothers beforehand that at around 2 weeks, 6 weeks, and 3 months, baby will have a growth spurt. This again, WHO point, very important. So make sure that you tell the mother beforehand. Because what happens a lot of time, they come to you at around 2 weeks, and then they say, oh, I started formula because baby was, asking for a lot of milk and I did not have enough milk. So you have to kind of, we call it anticipatory guidance in US. Anticipatory guidance means you tell them before it happens. So you tell them that by 2 weeks, baby will feel a lot more hungrier, because baby is now putting on or growing, or they have growth spurt. So just feed them more often, and your milk supply will increase. So this anticipatory guidance is really, really important. And all these points, if we kind of collect together, it becomes 45 points. So these are our famous, cross-cradle whole with 45 points. Okay. And now I want to just show you the results. So what are the results? Okay. So I'm going to go child-wise, then program-wise in urban slum, then block-wise, and hopefully district-wise. Okay. So let's start with the child-wise data. So here is some of the growth charts. These are all WHO growth chart, and we used to track it on our Salesforce. Okay, and here this is your 50th percentile green line, this is your 15th, and this is your 3rd percentile. So this is the same child. This is weight for age, this is length for age. Okay, so they started at 3 months of age. This child had come to me, birth weight was perfect, 3 kg. Again, this one came to me at 3 months of age, no weight gain whatsoever in 3 months. And this child was admitted in Nair Hospital for almost 6 weeks. Mother went Dama, discharged against medical advice, and then she finally found our clinic, so she came. We taught her proper technique. Difficult at 3 months of age because baby's already used to superficial latch, right? But still we worked on it. And as the weight started coming up, you can see the height, right? We will call it length because child is less than 2 years of age. So the length is going up, as you can see. And this child right now, it's about 6 years old and he's 85th percentile for length. Look at where he was when he came to us. He was way below 3rd percentile, right? So this is called stunting reversal. Earlier child comes, faster it is. Okay, this is our second child. Again, as you can see, as the latch improves, they start gaining weight. As the weight starts going up, the length starts going up. Now, have you noticed there is no increase in BMI? Why? Because both weight and height are pretty much the same. See here, do you see this weight and height? So they both are pretty much 85th percentile. Look at this, weight and height, pretty much same. So these children, we are not increasing the BMI. What we are doing is we are making them lean and tall. Okay, because when you look at them, they don't look fat, they're tall, right? So their weight is good. Okay, again, look at this, really crossing of percentile, beautiful, both weight and length. This child, look at this length. He came to us absolutely average. He was on 50th percentile for weight by age and length by age. But by I would say 15 months, look at this, he's 97th percentile for length. Now in America, I don't see this. You know why? In America, I see increased BMI because most of these babies are on formula milk. Formula milk is loaded with sugar, it's loaded with oil, right? So they put on weight, but the length, they don't put on so much. So over there, I see, good amount of weight increase, but not so much of height. Here, look at this, weight is okay. And look at the height, beautiful. And this child, if we look at weight for length percentile, or if you look at your, standard deviation, this child would be man, because see, the weight is, he is not caught up on weight to 97 percentile. But this child I would not call man. He's just lean and tall. It's like Amitabh Bachchan, we will never call him malnourished, right? So that's what I mean, that, a lot of time you have to look at the longitudinal data and see that, okay, how is this child, how is the length, how well child is growing. And these children don't fall sick. So these are hundreds of babies we have that, we have gotten them up, and these are children are from slums. Okay, if you see, if you look at their house, they are literally living in shanties. They don't have proper water. The water has a lot of worms. We work there, we know how it is. They don't have good, it's horrible. But if those children can do so well, then by and large, all our children should do not bad at all, because urban slum is a huge issue, right? So this is a lot of this child-wise data I'm showing. Look at all this. Okay, this is a very good growth chart. This is basically twin children had come to us, twin girls. Okay, so when they both are lengths, so this is twin 1, this is twin 2, and they had come to me when baby was about 2.5 months old. Okay, and look at the stunting. Look at this. It was unbelievable amount of stunting this child had. Now what we had to do, we had to teach mothers, different techniques. So in this one, we had taught football hold. So both the babies were holding. We worked a lot on the latch, but because there was so much of stunting, it took a long time for this child to come out of stunting. Because again, this stunting would have been there from probably first trimester, and that's why it was taking too long. If the stunting had started, say, probably from third trimester, it would have been much easier for us to bring them out. But probably this was much earlier that there was some insult, and if you look at it, both these girls were growing at the same rate. You see how it is like over here somewhere, both these children had again flat curve. Do you see this flat line? And again, they picked up. So it's amazing that how probably the environment of what mother was feeding them was kind of making a difference, and both of them were growing at the same rate, and these girls are now probably 7-8 years old, and they are perfect. They are 50th percentile. They are smart. They're doing good. Okay. So that was some number of children or growth charts I showed. Now look at the larger data. Okay. So we took one cohort. We have seen many children, probably in thousands, but we took one cohort where basically this cohort was less than 6 months of age. So all these children came to us at less than 6 months of age. About 286 children data we took. Okay. Out of them, 47% boys, 53% girls. Okay. Now, if you look at what we did, we basically we took that cohort, and we saw that we took only that cohort which came up to 1 year of age. Okay. So when we looked at 1-year-old data, like at 1 year of age, with our intervention, what was intervention? Basically, we tried to bring most of the pregnant mothers, but many times, children came to us after delivery, so some of them did come for, pre-pregnancy time also, not pre-pregnancy, but pre-delivery time or during ANC time. But again, breastfeeding, cross-cradle hold, growth monitoring, strict targets, home visits, cooking demos, breastfeeding technique, understanding during delivery time or before delivery time, actually ANC time, and immediately after. So we had very strict monitoring. I was probably a Hitler when it came to monitoring. Okay, so if you look at the stunting data, so basically there was a 18.8% reduction in stunting. Very difficult to get stunting reversal. As you guys know that, government is asking us to decrease stunting by 2% a year. I think we can do much better. Okay. Severe stunting came down by 32%. Your underweight, just by correcting the latch, that underweight data came out. I mean, look at the 47% improvement in underweight. Your severe underweight, 67% improvement, right? Wasting, basically 16.7. So at 1 year of age, we could decrease the wasting by 16.7, and your SAM children, 66% improvement just by improving the latch. Nothing else. We never admitted any child. Now this was what we did. We took now 80 children who came up to 2 years of age. Okay, because we had a lot of migrants. So in that population, a lot of mothers were moving in and out. But we could basically kind of help few mothers who were staying there permanently, right? So here in 80 children, basically when they came to us for 2 years, at the end of second year, we saw this results. So basically 28% reduction in stunting, a severe stunting reduction 50%. This is remarkable, really. This is amazing. Underweight 33% reduction, severe underweight 46%. Yes, severe wasting came down at 2 years of age, 40%. But as children were growing tall, they were becoming a little bit wasted. So as I showed you in one of the graph, that child was growing so tall, but his weight was lagging behind, right? So probably this was the case that why the wasting at 2 years of age kind of increased, because they were growing really well. Nutrient density was there, but probably that child was not getting enough energy, in a sense. A good, I won't give it from sugar or jaggery, but probably child needed a little bit more extra good fats. So that's why probably we saw wasting more. Okay, now this is block level project. So we did one block level project with Banaskantha. We just, in fact, this medical officers were trained by next district medical officers who were trained by us last year. Okay, so let's see. And this is, we did it with Department of Health. Okay, so ICDS was not involved, they were not interested. So we basically kind of got hold of Department of Health and DHO, you know, and we did training in Sabarkata. So first training was done in Sabarkata, and then he got transferred. So when he got transferred, but he saw the results over there with the training, so then he started, basically said he wants to implement this training at in his new district, and that was Banaskantha, huge district, 13 blocks. Okay, so what we did, and this training was just done a month ago. So the training was done on 27th, and we did all, I did not do, the medical officers did, but they were trained again. They only trained on 4 videos. Okay, and most of them were trained basically using videos. There were some block facilitators, but mainly looking, seeing videos. But again, I'm again very strict on monitoring. So I said, I will make sure that all these babies are monitored. So this is what we created. This is the kind of flow sheet that we created. We wanted weight check of every child who was born after the training. We wanted weight check every 2 days. Okay, because my goal was to bring that child to have 40 grams per day. Because again, when you look at that WHO chart, 42 grams a day, right, from second week. So I said, let's start from first week only. So we started weighing the baby every 2 days, and then basically my goal was to have minimum weight gain of 40 grams per day for 2 consecutive visits. If there was very good weight gain of 40 grams per day for 2 visits, we said that okay, now I think mother knows how to breastfeed. That baby can be followed as per HbA1c protocol, because HbA1c has a protocol. They have this 6 visits in 6 weeks. And then what happened if the baby did not gain weight? So if baby had only 30 to 40 gram weight gain, per day, then we said, okay, now that mother needs again 44-point counseling. And then, that medical officers need that training again, or that, they need to watch that video again. So then again, we started, and then again, if the weight gain was only 30 grams per day, then we said, okay, now then there needs an escalation. Okay, because this was done at the field level. Field level means in this particular, this one, it was ASHA, right? So if ASHA cannot get weight up, then it has to go up. I mean, there has to be escalation. This is how we do in America. I mean, if child is not, normally in America, we only pediatricians see the children or family practitioners see the children. We never let anybody else see our babies, whether they are in public or whether they are in private. Okay, so here you have ASHA, Anganwadis. If they are not trained well, how do you expect them? If doctors can't do their job, how do you expect ASHAs and Anganwadi workers to do the job? So then I said, okay, escalation. If ASHAs can't do, talk to block facilitator can't do, medical officer. Okay, but somebody has to be responsible for this baby, because baby's brain is growing. Okay, anyway, so then if suppose, and then what we did at 1 month of age, I wanted all these babies weight check properly on a digital weighing scale, because again, Salter, I'm not sure whether, I'm not used to Salter. So we said, okay, let's just get all these babies to PHC or wherever, and let's just get proper weight check. And I want a picture, because again, I don't trust data somehow. So I need to have a proper understanding, okay, if this is correct weight or not. Okay, and if baby is gaining 1 kg weight from birth, that's great, right? But if child did not, then again has to go back to same circle. Now this is the data. Again, we did training. They got trained on 27th of July. Today is what, 3rd of August, right? So 1 month. June. So 27th of June. That was the training. So it's just 1 month. Now let's see what happened. So we took about 51 babies born in this July month. Okay, and we wanted to see that how these children were growing after mothers were taught this cross-field technique with 45 points. So we saw that normally we know what we feel that, oh, first 1 month they don't gain weight, because first 1 week losing weight, then second week gaining weight, and then slowly baby starts gaining. But look at the weight gain that all these babies had, pretty much. So if you look at how many babies had more than 30 to 45 grams per day weight gain, almost 30%. So your 1/3 babies had more than 30 grams weight gain per day. I'm talking about per day starting from birth. How many percent of children had 45 to 60 gram weight gain? 25%, almost 25%, right? How many babies had more than 60 gram weight gain just by mother's milk? almost 7-8% babies had more than 60 grams. Now, do you know that when you give F75 in SAM children, F75, what do we expect that F75, what is the expectation of weight gain? Like a very good weight gain. Anybody? So if baby has even like 7 to 8 grams per kg per day weight gain, oh, doctors would be so happy, right? Even in SAM, even RUTF, if you give, like they say, oh, the good program will have 10 gram per kilogram per day of weight gain. Here with mother's milk, baby is getting, look at this, 60 grams. So if baby is born 3 kg, 60 gram weight gain is how much? 20 gram per kilogram. Look at this. 20 gram per kilogram per day. Okay, very few babies had less weight gain, but again, this means that those medical officers, FHW, need more training, right? Because if your significant number of babies are gaining so much of weight, that means this is the problem with the training. Okay, and again, so I feel that if baby is gaining less than 30 grams of weight gain, these babies are going to go stunted. That means these babies are not putting on enough weight, they're going to falter, and then eventually they will get diarrhea, they'll become SAM-MAM, and then they will go into this vicious cycle of malnutrition. Okay, and this is, if you count, it's about 40%. That's your number, for your malnutrition. 40% children are stunted. So I feel that if we can bring this to this, we will have much lesser malnutrition. Okay, now here we took, so those were 51 numbers, because right now we had only 51 children born in that 1 week. Okay, but what we did, we basically followed all the babies who were born throughout in last 3-4 weeks, right? So here in this one, this is actually it's all blocks, district level data. So mean weight gain was 10 gram, okay, in 197 children at first week. So here the mean weight was 10 grams per day. Okay, the mean weight gain in second week is 40 grams per day. 40 grams per day, that is amazing. Okay, week 3 probably went down, and then week 4 again 50 grams mean weight. So almost basically 50 grams of, so these children by and large, they caught up. This is again, your block-wise data. Number 311 children. This is again, children who were born in last 2 weeks. I just got this data today, and Marian, my research assistant, put it up right away, and just here, look at this. So some of these blocks are doing so well. Like this Bhabar, I know the doctor really well. He's so enthusiastic. He wants to learn latching on WhatsApp. So we have created a WhatsApp group where all these doctors are kind of posting latching pictures or videos, and they're learning like on-field latching techniques. Okay, so this in Bhabar, basically in your second week, this is first week and this is second week. So first week is your blue and yellow is your second week. So in that, basically you have 86 gram per weight gain per day, this children. And that's a big number, 311. So I think we can do, and look at this, average 67, 52, 53 grams, 55 grams. How can we have malnutrition? I don't understand. Okay. Now I have a request. Okay. Looking at all this data, we need some amendment. Okay, in MAH guideline. What is the amendment we need? So this is again the MAH guideline in Maharashtra. What it says over here, 1 year of age, every month 500 gram weight gain. If you have a 500 gram weight gain per year, first of all, baby does not grow in linear fashion. Okay, if you look at the growth chart, they grow fast in first 3 months, then they slow down, and they slow down even more, right? So you don't expect after 6 months to even have a 250 gram weight gain per month, so this is wrong. This is completely wrong. Okay. Second thing is, again, somebody's mic is on. Okay. Another thing, when we do training in the field, right? So the field, when we do training, we ask a lot of pre-test questions, okay? Because we want to know what is the perception that healthcare workers have, or what is the kind of training that they have received, okay? So when we ask a question, what should be the birth weight of the baby? All of them say 2.5 kg birth weight. I mean, 2.5 kg is like a lower limit. less than 2.5 is, we call it IUGR, intrauterine growth retardation, or low birth weight babies. But their goal was to just bring the baby to 2.5 kg, and then baby is considered normal weight, and they are happy. So, so that perception of the healthcare workers need to be changed. Okay. As per MAR guideline, at least 500 gram per weight gain for first year is expected, but that is not how babies grow. So this is what I showed in our program. When you have a 50-gram weight gain per day, in 10 days you will have 500 grams. In 30 days you will have 1.5 kg. Okay, so this is wrong. Okay, this was I said. Again here, this is again MAR guideline. More weight gain, less increase in weight. So here, is my baby getting enough milk? So if the child is gain weight at least 500 grams every month, that's enough. No, this is not enough. This is not enough. Okay. Okay, now we also need some amendment in ILA module. Okay, ILA module, why? Here. So this is perfectly shown in ILA module. You have ideal weight. This is for a boy child. I think this is boy and this is girl, right? So as I said, boy child at birth is 3.3 kg, girl child 3.2 kg at birth, right? Then there is kind of at 3 months, they almost double. So doubling is 3 months, not 5 months or 6 months. Okay, almost double, right? And then around 6 months, 7.9, this is perfect. Okay, but if you look at it, if you have a low birth weight baby, so most of the babies who are born, if in tribal areas, by and large they're 1.8, 1.9 kg. In slums we find it 2.7, 2.8 kgs. Even in elite mothers, educated mothers, baby's weight gain is 2 points, or birth weight is 2.7, 2.8. Very rare to find babies who are born 3.3, 3.2. So if you have such small babies, the weight catch up has to be much more than what is recommended over here. You know what I mean? So what I feel is that, but in here we have written weight gain in first 3 months of life should be around 500 gram per month. This is wrong. 500 gram per month. If in first 3 months, let's see what happens. Okay, I'm going to show you one growth chart where the child had 500 gram per month weight gain for first 3 months. I'll show you that. Baby was born perfect, 3.2, but before that, I just want to show you the first training was done last year in Sabarkata district, where stunting, NFHS for stunting rate is 51%. Okay, now look at this. Now after the training, babies are born. Birth weight 2.6 kg, in 2 months 4.89 kg. You know what is the increment weight per month? It's baby almost, almost double here. Birth weight 2.2 kg, at 3 months 6 points. So triple the weight in 3 months. Now tell me how these children are going to be stunted. They're not going to be stunted. They're going to be pretty tall, pretty lean. Now this is Banaskata. They did training just a month ago. Literally, it was done on 27th of June, and here now already they're sharing results with me. 2.2 kg, 40 days, 4.3 kg, but double the weight in 40 days. Double the weight. Of course, this is now, it should be taken, it should be without the cloth, but even if you remove 200 grams, pretty much still a lot of good weight gain. Here, birth weight was 3 kg. In 24 days, baby had 4.4 kg, 58 grams a day. Look at this, beautiful. Okay, now if we go by a lot of this guideline, and if we target our weight gain at 500 grams, okay, because if you again ask all these ashas and Anganwadi workers, so one of my very famous pre-test question is, how much weight gain should be there in a 1 month old or 2 month old children? They say 500 grams, because that's a benchmark, right? So they feel that if 500 gram ho gaya, matlab you're fine. If you have a 500 gram weight gain, look at this. This is my question to all my students at IIT Bombay. So you have a 3.2 kg baby boy born perfectly 3.3. You have a 500 gram weight gain. Within 1 month, child will come to 15th percentile. Within another month, child will come to 3rd percentile. And in another month, child will come to less than 3rd percentile. This child will become underweight. MUW, maybe SCW. So you basically, by your guideline, you're making the children alter. Okay. Now, again, pediatrician always worry about Baker's hypothesis, but you guys have not read Baker's hypothesis actually. So Baker's hypothesis, actually, when the first paper came out, okay, they said that children who had basically good growth at 1 year of age, okay, 1 year of age. It was not at birth, because what we are told that, oh, babies who are born IUGR, babies who are born low birth weight, if you make them put on too much weight, they will have metabolic syndrome. Okay, but that's not what previous Barker's hypothesis shown in the papers. Okay, what it showed that if child did not have proper weight gain at 1 year of age, those are the babies developed metabolic syndrome. Now this is a really good study, which is basically shared by my a colleague in US. So they really quote this study all the time. Okay, she's a neonatologist in California. So what they did, this author, basically he took very low birth weight babies, VLBW. Okay, so these are very small babies born, very low birth weight babies. Okay, some of them were basically AGA, means they were absolutely okay for weight for that gestational age, and some of them were small for gestational age. Okay, but what they found at 2 years of age, the baby who was born AGA, if he continued to grow AGA, if he continued to put on good amount of weight and good amount of catch-up growth, that baby was fine. Okay, so this is your mental developmental index. So 100, perfect, right? This baby, the normal baby, was born very low birth weight, but normal for appropriate for gestational age. If this baby did not gain weight and faltered, like how our babies falter in India, so this baby, when he faltered, even born appropriate for gestational age, baby's IQ is low. Mental development index 94.9. Okay, now look at those babies who were born low birth weight. Okay, even the small babies who are born not appropriate for age, or SGA babies, so what happened to them when they caught up? So this SGA babies, when they caught up, their MDR was as good as your AGA baby, right? And these babies, when they did not catch up, look at this. So what it basically what it says is basically the course of postnatal growth predicts neurological outcome. Because we as doctors, we always worry about कि अरे ये बच्चे premature born हुआ है, बहुत low birth है, उसका mental like होगा. Focus on the growth, postnatal growth. Okay, and you have 2 years to do it. In fact, I would say you have at least 6 to 9 months. After that, very difficult. Okay, so here now all this whatever field learning that we had, so this is only on breastfeeding, but we have so much learning on complementary feeding, and I can talk on complementary feeding forever, because that was another phase where we faced so much of problem, that children, we could get the weight up to 8 kg at 6 months, but then they would stay 8 kg for like 3 months, 4 months, even though we were telling them each this, they were doing whatever we were saying. Then we figured out that what we were saying was not right. Okay, so then I don't want to talk too much because I'll keep going on and on. Okay, this is a 40 tutorials on MIYCF. So far 40, our goal is to make it 75, 80. Okay, in all the different languages, our goal is to directly go to that girl in a remote village, young, I would say 23 or 24-year-old who has no access to any help. She can just watch. If she has access to smartphone, she can basically learn breastfeeding on her own when the baby is crying, so that is our goal, is to really kind of make it in such a simple language that anybody can understand. But so far all these medical officers are trained using this tutorial, so it's not only for tribal girls, but it's also for medical officers and nurses and nutritionists and ashas. Okay. I don't know, I think I've talked too much now. This is a website. Okay, Health Spoken Tutorial IIT Bombay. This are all the different channels. English we have 40 already. Tamil. This is just an example. This is in Gujarati. So here, just in 2 videos, in cross cradle and latching, we have shown pretty much all the all our learnings. So this is our slum babies, 11-month-old, 5-month-old, and 4-month-old. And this is, I worked in the slum for good almost 13, 14 years. And this is how, we had laptops. It was paperless. I felt like I was in US really, because we did not have any paper. Everything was entered in the computer, and everything was done. So thank you so much. Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Rupal Dalal ma'am, for such a nice presentation. I would now request our chief guest, Dr. Amar Singh Thakur sir, and guest of honor, Dr. Harish Naik sir, to speak few words. Then we will take over the questions if they're there. Sir, I invite you, sir, for your words.
Yeah. Uh, this is very nice webinar, and I have a lot of respect for Dr. Rupal Dalal because of her so much of knowledge and her zeal for her knowledge sharing thing. And as we all know that this is a very difficult time for all of us because we are having COVID and these things, and that is causing a lot of problem, lot many lockdown and shutdown and all these things. And in this period, I will say that we, the pediatricians, and of course, I can see that Bhilai Durg branch is also doing very well. And Dr. Umesh Khurana has also contributed so many things in this difficult time that we definitely will get our people will also come to understand the difficulty, and they will also be benefited from whatever deliberation is being brought by the IAP and definitely Durg Bhilai branch. But one more thing I will say for Madam Rupal Dalal, that this is my third lecture that I have heard from her lecture, and really it is so beautiful and so very good that it really inspires everyone. And so many things we came to learn from her. Breastfeeding, naturally we were not very much like, of course we have been talking about the breastfeeding for last 20, 25 years, 28 years, as she has already said. But then we have not been able to, still the thing is that in Chhattisgarh we are having initiation of breastfeeding is hardly 47% and exclusive breastfeeding is 70%. So all said and done, that uh, the thing, for the perception of the mother and the teaching of the mother, whatever, whether it was in 2000 or whether it is in 2020, every time you need to teach them, every time you need to make them learn. Even as she said that almost 22% of the research people, they also need knowledge and they also need the learning. Then only this can be like percolated, and they may be able to give the good feeding to their children. So it is so much important thing, breastfeeding, and I do definitely um, salute her, madam. You are doing wonderful job. And at the same time, BPNI, that is a breastfeeding promotion network of India, Dr. Dadichi, and all, and Dr. Khurana in Chhattisgarh, and we all like we need to know all these kinds of things, and we need to percolate these information to the Anganwadis, to the Mitanis, to the all the healthcare workers and other people, so that the things can be like made to reach to the targeted person like mother, early mother, and so many things we have come to learn from you, madam. So thank you very much, and thank you to the BPNI, thank you to Dr. Umesh Khurana, and thank you to Bhilai Durg branch, and we will always will come whenever is required. I think Rupal Dalal madam will be there for Chhattisgarh also, as she is working in some of the other state. So we will definitely cherish your presence in Chhattisgarh also, madam. Thank you very much.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you, Thakur sir. Breastfeeding can be so scientific. That is what ma'am has told us today. Now I would invite Dr. Harish Naik sir to say a few words about the talk.
No words about the today's webinar. Very successful webinar. The number of participants that shows that how successful this webinar is. And so many things we have learned from Dr. Rupal Dalal. Thanks to Dr. Rupal. And it is amazing. More than 100 participants in today's webinar. It shows the success. Congratulations to the Durg Bhilai IIP, especially Dr. Seema Jain, Dr. Thakur. Thanks to Khurana sir for guidance. Dr. Satyen, our center representative. Dr. Raghavendra, our dynamic secretary, and Dr. Thakur. Thanks. Thanks, Dr. Rupal. Thanks. I have no words for today's webinar. Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Harish Naik sir. Now, may I request Dr. Satyen sir and Dr. Raghavendra sir to say a few words about this webinar.
It was an excellent talk, and I think Dr. Rupal Dalal has come to Raipur few times, and every time somehow I missed it. First time I heard her, and it was fantabulous. I can say some things which we learned, that the Vada Pav Funda, which was ultimate. I have experienced that thing, and I will change this in my practice. It was a wonderful talk, and I hope a lot of people have learned. Thanks to Khurana sir, N.S. Thakur sir, and Seema Jain ma'am for conducting such a wonderful session. And I really learned a lot. I was driving and hearing the whole talk, and it was wonderful. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you.
So, madam, it's wonderful that everyone has loved such a like our talk, which was basically female related. But now everyone has enjoyed, and the basic concept of breastfeeding, like adequate latching, attachment, and position, what was stressed upon is really wonderful. Is Dr. Raghavendra sir over there? If he is not there, then I will request Dr. Umesh Khurana sir to carry on the questions which are there in the chat box and conclude the talk, sir.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. Thank you very much. Well, we know that pediatrics is about growth, and Dr. Rupal has very rightly mentioned about the various growth charts and growth. Well, in this oration of today, we have focused more on the skills, the skill of transfer of milk from the breast to the baby. So this is very, very important. And one question is there for Dr. Rupal is that, is there any role of galactogogues for increasing the milk supply?
You know, to be frank, Dr. Umesh, we never gave any galactogog in a program. Never.
Oh, that's,
you know.
Yes.
Because once we worked on the latch, and once we worked on those 45 points, how many times to give, hunger cues, all those, you know. So the more baby kind of got milk, more mother got it. So it's,
yes.
And of course, I mean, we don't say not to take it, because a lot of time there are, you know, like mother-in-law say, nahi ye banaya, wo banaya. So we say it's okay to take it. But basically, we don't say that it will help. Because when we say that it will help, she kind of misunderstands that, okay, latching will not help, but that methika laddu will help. You know what I mean?
Correct.
So,
yes.
What we feel is that I don't recommend, if mothers want to take it, it's okay, you know. But, you know, some of these are very healthy, right? So methi is really healthy. Moringa is, you know, moringa powder is really, really healthy. So it's good for her to improve her nutrition, you know. But there are very few studies which are done which said actually substantially it increases. Not really. There's not much data out there.
Well, Rupal, I will like to mention to the entire house that I have been using these aid of spoken tutorials in educating the mothers on the cross-cradle technique, and I have really found that the breast conditions, because of a very good latch, the breast conditions do not take place. The various complications of breast conditions do not take place, and there is indeed a very good growth recording as a especially in intrauterine growth retarded babies. So it's really very, very important to focus on the skills of positioning, the skill of latching. And as you have rightly mentioned, that the fingers should be parallel to the lips. It's very, very important that we transfer these skills to each and every mother of the baby. And there are many medical students who have also shown the eagerness to listen to this webinar, and they are also learning these skills. And I'm sure they, when they pass out and they will become doctors, they will also use these spoken tutorials, they will also use these growth charts, and we will prevent stunting amongst the children, and the malnutrition rate will definitely decrease. Many thanks to you, to the Sitara Group, to BPNI for a wonderful interaction.
Dr. Umesh, there is one more question, I think from Dr. Seema Jain. So Dr. Seema Jain's answer was that 80 gram, I mean, generally we don't see 80 gram weight gain per day, very rare, you know, but just recently one paper came out. Just Dr. Umesh, remind me to send it to you. So it just came out last week, where what they did, they basically track, babies who were breastfed versus babies who were formula fed. Okay, so they tracked them. They tracked up to 1 year of age. So what they found, that babies who are both sections, they have rapidly gaining weight. Okay, both in formula fed and also in breastfed babies. But breastfed baby at 1 year of age was lean, you know, he was not obese, but the formula fed baby became obese. Right? So it's important that, you know, never think that breast milk will cause obesity. What breast milk will do, because of good weight gain, it will increase the height, you know. And as you know that after 4 months, 5 months, babies, they don't grow well, even on breastfed. In a sense, you know, they slow down. So, you know, in fact, I never say that if baby is gaining good amount of weight on mother's milk, I never tell mother to stop, you know. I say just give it. In fact, you know,
I will Rupal, I would like to share one important thing. You were mentioning about the lower jaw. Now, lower jaw, close to the lower jaw is the tongue. So what happens is in BPNI skill training, that when the mother takes the lower areola, the major portion of the breast, it rests above the tongue. So between the tongue and the palate, there are waves, the sucking waves, and that helps in a greater amount of transfer of milk. So that is the philosophy, that the lower areola, because the tongue is also there. So that is the also one explanation. The areola may be of a larger size also, but the lower areola has to be within the baby's mouth.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So, and it is indeed a matter of great admiration to see you are gifted by God, that you have got great observation, going to slums, seeing how the latch takes place, and then trying to find out what could be a better technique of latching, sort of a cross cradle technique, which can be easily, because all this mention that malnutrition will be taken care of by giving RUTF and all those things. Instead of that, make a good beginning, have a good latch, offer good skills, and get a good weight record. That is the message of today's webinar.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Correct. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you, madam. Thank you, Dr. Umesh Kunal sir. Now I will request our president, Dr. Nohar Singh Thakur sir, to give a vote of thanks and conclude this meeting. Dr. Thakur sir. Ji sir, carry on.
Hello. On behalf of the Executive Secretary, thanks our eminent guest speaker of National Retreat, Dr. Rupal Das, who spares time and enriching us with up-to-date knowledge of this skill for the optimal variant. Thank you, madam. It was excellent talk. Thank you. I would like to thank Dr. Amar Singh Thakur sir for his encouraging words. I want to thank Dr. Harish Naik sir, President Chhattisgarh Academy of Pediatrics, for his guidance and support. I thank Team BPNI for hosting this excellent session with the Durgavati Committee of Pediatrics, Chhattisgarh. I want to thank Dr. Ramesh Kurala sir for his great effort to make
Yeah, thank you, one and all present over here. Thank you very much, BPNI, and thank you, participants who have spent their valuable time today with us. Thank you, one and all. With this, I declare this session closed.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
ma'am.
Thank you. टाइम हो गया लगता आधा आधा बच गया आधा लोग थैंक्स देना बच गया वो टाइम रहता है ना डिस्कशन में बहुत टाइम लग गया है हाँ हाँ चल बंद